Listen up, beautiful people. I want to take just a minute to tell you about our new hosting site, Anchor. Anchor is your one stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. So go to anchor.fm/start and become part of the Anchor community today. And now, back to the show. Listen up, you beautiful, beautiful people. From the shadow of Graceland, it's the 901 Soccer Podcast. I'm Scotty Smith, and I will be your host. We love Memphis, and we love the game. That's what we like to talk about. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the 901 Soccer Podcast.
Alrighty, folks, welcome into another brand new edition of the 901 Soccer Podcast. I'll be your host this go-round. I'm your host, Lawrence Starkey. You can find me on Twitter at LDoc93, and you can find the 901 Soccer Podcast on Twitter at 901 Soccer Pod. You can also find us on Facebook. I believe it's just 901 Soccer Pod, so you just want to... I take that back. I believe it's just 901 Soccer on Facebook, so if you just search there, you can find us there as well. Here we're going to be recapping today. We're going to be recapping the Memphis 901 FC's home victory. That's right, a home victory, folks. It's the first time this year we've gotten to mention those words. This one was not in USL play, but instead in the US Open Cup as they defeated the New York Red Bulls U23 Academy team by a final score of 3-1. So for those of you that don't know, I'm sure there's most of you out there that do know, but for those that don't, the US Open Cup is the oldest, most prestigious club competition in the U.S. It dates back over 100 years. I believe the first edition of it was in 1914. Might be 1904, but I feel like it was 1914. If somebody has the exact year, and if I'm incorrect, please let me know, and we'll roll with the correct number going forward. So this is the second round. All the USL Championship, all the USL teams join in the second round. Memphis, with the win, will advance to the third round, but we'll talk about future opponents later. So that's the stage for the U.S. Open Cup. Wednesday night, things got off kind of to a thunderous start, if you will. Thunderous, not just because of the way the game started, but because the fact that there was an hour-plus weather delay due to lightning in the area. The grounds crew had to come out and put the tarp down as there was a brief but heavy downpour. Once the rain stopped, they took the tarp off, and game got kicked off probably, I'd say, around a little after 8 o'clock. I believe the official kickoff time was 8:06. One thing I did notice, that despite there not being a Grizzlies game or a Tigers game or a Redbirds game or, may they rest in peace, a Memphis Express game, for it being Memphis's first U.S. Open Cup game, first one ever, first one at home, there were a surprising lack of local media in the press box, which I found to be rather, I don't know what the right word is, but it irked me. There were some folks there from WHBQ Sports 56, I believe is their call sign, AM 560. John Varlos of the Daily Memphian was there. I was there. There were several folks from News Channel 3 there. Unfortunately, nobody from the Commercial Appeal, nobody from 92.9 ESPN, nobody from Grind City Media. So I found that odd, given that they are dedicated to covering Memphis sports, and then the only Memphis sporting event going on, and a pretty big deal, I might add. They're nowhere to be found. So let's hope that those outlets kind of get their act together and start bringing more publicity, sending somebody to cover Memphis 901 FC games. But other than that, the game actually got off, like I mentioned, to kind of a ridiculous and insane start. It was not even 5 minutes into the game. Red Bulls took a 1-0 lead on a goal from John Paul, whose last name escapes me. If you give me 1 second, I can find that for you. Jean-Paul Marin. He also scored for the Red Bulls in their first round game against FC Motown up in the northeastern corner of the United States. And so that was really kind of a gut sucker punch. It almost came out of nothing. I believe it was Ewan Grandison was supposed to be marking him, and it looked like thought there was another Memphis defender behind him covering Marin's run. That wasn't the case, and New York went up 1-0 in the first 5 minutes. However, Memphis responded almost immediately, probably about 2 minutes later officially, in the 7th minute. They got a free kick about 25 yards outside of away from goal, and Cam Lindley stepped up and absolutely buried it. I mean, if Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo had hit a free kick like that, it'd be every soccer person in the world would be waxing poetic and crowning achievements and all sorts of crazy stuff. And so U.S. Open Cup goal like that, mad props to Cam Lindley, because that was a fantastic and a beautiful, beautiful free kick to tie the game back up at 1 for Memphis. And it was all Memphis from there. Basically, the Red Bulls threatened one time, maybe the rest of the game. Memphis got another goal, this one from Josh Morton in about the 25th minute. And what I'll say is that goal came almost solely because of a fantastic solo run from new signing Lagos Kunga. You may not have heard of him. He only got picked up, I guess it was Tuesday. But the dude can ball, man. That dude is lightning in a bottle. And in the post-game press conference, we asked Coach Mulqueen about him, and he said, he's not really super fit just quite yet. He hasn't played a lot of minutes in quite a while, but once he gets fit, watch out, because he's going to be a really good player once he gets full match fitness. And if what we saw Wednesday night against the Red Bulls isn't full match fitness, if I was the rest of the USL and anybody else in the U.S. Open Cup, I would be terrified, because he made things happen out there. Of course, as is the MO for the most part of Memphis 901 FC, there were 1 or 2 times where he took too many touches in the box, but he made things happen. He blew past defenders like they weren't even there. And that is the reason he went 1-on-6 and just dribbled through everybody and found a wide open Josh Morton, who took one touch and buried it, put Memphis up 2-1. And, you fast forward into the second half, you got to give the Red Bulls credit for not going away. They're a U23 academy team playing up against a team of actual professionals, of a number of whom represent their national teams. So the talent was eventually going to take over and put the game to bed for Memphis. But you got to give credit to the Red Bulls for not just parking the bus and actually going out intending to play soccer. And B, you got to give credit to them for not just rolling over and dying. And they actually, they kept trying. They didn't throw in the towel. And Memphis was just a better team. And then 15 minutes from time, a beautiful corner kick came in from Cam Lindley, which Josh Morton absolutely buried. Makes it 3-1 Memphis. They get out with the win. They advance to the next round of the U.S. Open Cup. First home win of the season across all competitions for Memphis. Another good crowd tonight. I believe the announced attendance was somewhere. It was actually exactly 4,057. So that's another great crowd. Well, maybe not great, but for a Wednesday night with a bad weather delay and a game that only got added to the schedule a week ago, 4,057, that's a solid turnout. Coach Mulqueen actually did say in the postgame that he was really glad that they were able to deliver a win for the fans, because they've stuck with them through this point and they really deserve to see not just some goals but some results, and we got that. So that's always good. Now, next up is the third round of the U.S. Open Cup, I believe, against Hartford Athletic, who Memphis just picked up a win against in USL play last Saturday. Coach Mulqueen said after the game that other than looking at some game film to maybe observe 1 or 2 tendencies that each team might have, he's not going to put too much stock into Saturday's result when game planning for the U.S. Open Cup game, because he said it's different competitions, leads to different mindsets, different circumstances. And so he said it's not going to be too big of an issue, and they're not going to spend too much time thinking about what happened last Saturday, and it's a new game. Coach McClung it is a basketball town, so he was dropping some Jim Valvano, Survive and Advance references when he was talking about cup play, so that got a chuckle from some of the Memphis media. But that's true. That's the name of the game in the U.S. Open Cup. You win, you move on. You lose, you go home, and that's that. Memphis has won. They're moving on. One thing to note is the game is about 2 weeks. It's Wednesday the 28th, I believe. That's the 29th. It'll be Wednesday the 29th against Hartford Athletic. This game, it has been confirmed, it will be out at Mike Rose Soccer Complex out there in Collierville. That is right there at 385 and Forest Hill, Irene. The stadium out there, which that's the home of the old Memphis City, which, our boy Smitty and Clayton and some of that crew, they were part of the old Rogue Squadron, so they're familiar with that first season that Memphis City played out at Mike Rose. I will say the stadium at Mike Rose as a soccer venue is fantastic. I've refereed a number of games in there, and the field is always in pretty good shape. The stands, you can get some people in there, so it's going to be interesting to see. I hope they can get that filled up. The only thing that concerns me is press box space, because the press box is maybe a little bit bigger than a broom closet in there, so that's going to be interesting, but we'll just have to cross that bridge when we get to it. So that's Wednesday, May 29th against Hartford Athletic out at Mike Rose. We hope to see you all out there. All right, that's going to wrap it up here on this quick little recap from Wednesday night's U.S. Open Cup game. Memphis 901 FC victorious against the New York Red Bulls U23 Academy. Final score of 3-1. 2 goals from Josh Morton and 1 goal from Cam Lindley. That's going to do it for us tonight. Thanks for listening. I'm Lawrence Dockery. Find me on Twitter at LDoc93. Find the 901 Soccer Pod on Twitter at 901 Soccer Pod. Find us on Facebook, 901 Soccer. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
We are a part of the Beautiful Game Network. Go to bgn.fm to discover soccer podcasts from across this great nation of ours.